Showtime! The Capital G Show starts right now.
What's up YouTube, Capital G here. Gonna do another episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Marketwatch. Talk about some of these cards that have seen some price fluctuations and why I believe that that is. Maybe you need to keep an eye on some of these cards so you can make yourself a little bit of dough. Alright, so I think there's two big reasons why I've seen some of these card price spikes. Number one is just straight out of necessity. I think that people are starting to realize, as far as Xene goes, there are certain monsters that we are now considering near extra deck staples, and when these cards are no longer in print or they're difficult to find, you can't pick up the sets anymore. I think that the price is it's slowly gaining because people realize I gotta have this card in my extra deck because when that situation comes up that I need it, it wins the game. The second, it's just OCG trends. I think when you look at decks like the Elemental, Suppressor Dragons, the Verse, and Prophecy with them, you know, soon to be getting Spellbook Judgment Day, those are three decks that are basically tier 1 in Japan, and they're soon to be migrating to the TCG. They're going to pick up a lot of popularity, and that's probably what's causing a lot of the price fluctuations and kind of like the inflation that we're seeing here with some of these cards. Okay, so the first card I want to talk about is Retort. It's a secret rare out of Abyss Rising. The card currently is running $15 a pop. This was a $2 to $3 card when it first came out, and I mean when you look at it, it's like the only really great use that it has outside of like really just reaching is in the Prophecy mirror match, because you know it's a counter trap, really difficult to stop. It is a +1 when you resolve it, but I mean you can activate it when your opponent, like let's say you go first, you activate your Spellbook of Secrets and your Spellbook of Masters and all that jazz, and when your opponent tries to do it, then you just activate Retort. Not only do you negate theirs, but you get your Spellbook back to your hand, so you can keep on rolling and you just stopped all their momentum. So it's a really good card in the Prophecy mirror match. I just don't really think that it's that great anywhere else. I think that's the reason why the card has spiked in price, is because people were kind of expecting like Prophecies to just blow up and be like on God mode. So I think maybe that's the reason why the card is so expensive. I gotta give this a sell, honestly. It's not because the Prophecy mirror match isn't something that could happen a lot. It's just that the card only has one great purpose. You know, card's not really as useful as people might believe it is. Next card I want to talk about is the Blackship of Corn, which is a mind-blowing $25 a pop right now. That is insane because the card came out at about $8 or so, because the mangas, you know, they come out at $8, but we've seen this in the past with Thunder King Ryo and other cards. When you can no longer find the book in circulation, the card seems to, you know, like skyrocket and then generally like fall a little bit, but not really sure if that's happening right now. And that's because this card is perceived as a near extra deck staple. I'm not sure that I necessarily agree with that. I think that a lot of its usefulness was tied to cards like Gotchi and Zen Mage, which I don't seeing a lot of play right now. I mean, cards like that are seemingly a thing of the past. You know, they're still good, but as Tour Guide's viability falls, so does Zen Mage's viability. So, you know, I still see Blackship of Corn as a really great card. I'm just not sure that it's worth $25. You know, I think I want to give this a sell because I think 3 months from now, this could be a card that it's not even perceived as extra deck staple. I see it as a little nichey, you know what I mean? It isn't a card that blows the game open, so, you know, I'm going to personally give it a sell. I do think that, you know, much like Ryo, Light and Darkness Dragon, these cards that come out in the manga, they ultimately always get reprinted. You could throw Acid Golem in that because he came out in like the Shonen Jump magazine, stuff like that. I mean, these book promos, they always get reprinted. Alright, so let's talk about the next card, Gagaga Cowboy. This might be the most surprising on this list. When Gagaga first came out, he was only a $6 card. Now he's running about $25. It looks like he might even creep up to $30. This is just shocking because the card is still really, really recent. I mean, it just came out in Abyss Rising, so it's not really super difficult to find, but I think that this price is directly linked to necessity. If you're running any deck that can make rank 4 exceeds, you need to be running this card, because in the span of a large scale tournament, it's gonna happen to where you get your opponent under that 800. You can simply summon this guy for game. I found out all too well when playing Chainburn, you know, on DN and stuff. I couldn't let people get me under 1600 because they could just make Cowboy detach next turn, detach for game, and it was like unless they were stupid and summoned another monster, thus I'd be able to lava golem them. I really just couldn't stop it. I mean, threatening roar, swift scarecrow, they couldn't really do anything against the Cowboy. So I think Cowboy is an absolute staple. He's a game ender. I mean, that's what you want out of a card. You don't have to attack, you don't have to do anything. You just put him in defense, pop his effect, and it's just lights out. So, I definitely think that you should hold on to this if you have only one, because I think that this is a card in the next year we're still going to continue to use because, decks like the Verse, decks like Fire Fist, they make rank 4 exceeds. They're going to still want to use this card to where, you can just end games. But if you have more than one, $25, I think you got to sell. Now we're going to talk about Reborn. This one is really, really shocking. I think that a lot of this has to do with the OCG. Came out in Order of Chaos, so it's a fairly old card. It's a secret rare. It's running about $18. And, it had a little bit of hype, like just a little bit, but it was one of those cards that no one really played. People were trying to mess around with Mighty and stuff like that, but it never really saw any competitive play. So it was only like $5 when it came out, and this is really based on the OCG and the fact that we all know that Ophidian is basically like one of the best boss monsters ever created. You can't summon your suppressor dragons while he's on the field. He has basically protection against any one spell or trap because he searches out the pandemic virus. And people are realizing that, if your Ophidian dies, I mean, you need a backup plan if you can't instantly get the one. And this card is that backup plan. If you play it against mono Mermills, they can't do anything. They can't summon Abysseus. They can't summon Abyss Megalo. I mean, this card is just so powerful against so many decks. And he has that really good 25-50 attack. And I think that, this card it has the potential of rising in price just because of all the hype that the Verge are going to get in the TCG. So I think if you can find this card for under like $15, I think you got to pick it up because it's a secret rare. It's out of print. I don't think it has a very good chance of getting a reprint anytime soon because, it hasn't really been on anybody's radar. So I think that this card could end up being like $30. And then the last card we're going to talk about is Fog King. Fog King is something like, I didn't even know what this card was, but he's a secret rare out of Light of Destruction. It's super old, and he's running $25 right now. I could swear this was like a card that nobody would even use. Like, this shit used to be toilet paper back then because it had no practical uses, but now with the OCG, elemental suppressor dragons, it's basically, to my knowledge, like an OTK tool. If there are more, intricate ways of using this, please let me know in the comment section below. But this card is running like $25 and slowly rising. So, I mean, this is just shocking, but it's so difficult to find because, it came out in a set that was like 4 years old. You gotta hold on to this guy. I mean, this guy could easily go to like $50 depending on how big of an impact the suppressor dragons have in the TCG. People are already starting to try and dig through their old binders and stuff like that to find copies of this card, but to my knowledge, it's really only a OTK card where you tribute your suppressor dragons. This guy gets to an insane amount of attack, and then you summon a couple more dragons and just push for game. So, if you have other uses for that, please let me know because I'm not like an elemental dragon expert or anything like that. So, if there are any cards that you guys think should be on this list, please let me know in the comment section below. Maybe you can make some money off some of these cards. Thank you for watching and have a nice day. Subscribing makes life happy.